that is some nice looking coffee. And as far as I'm aware, this would probably be the most exotic coffee that I've ever actually seen, being that it's grown at 51 degrees latitude here in Calgary, Alberta.
Yeah, that's right. Since 2000, I went to Guatemala in 2000, stayed in Quetzaltenango, hiked for, I don't know, I think about 3 days, 2 nights through the mountains from Guatemala, from Quetzaltenango to Lago Atitlan, which is this touristy place that's close to, well, it's sort of partly laid back, hippie types, partly high-end tourism, whatever. Anyway, we're looking down at the lake, down this cliffy face of mud and clay and stuff, and there's all these plants, and I'm looking and say, hey, these are coffee plants. I couldn't believe it. They're out in the sun. It turns out they have a really high quality Arabica coffee there in Guatemala, and they grow it around Antigua and Lago Atitlan. These are the beans. I brought them back. They dried for about 3 or 4 months. I planted them and put them in a dish with water in a Kleenex, so they would soak, and then planted them. It takes about 3 months. It takes a long time. You think, are they ever going to show up? But they do. And I don't know how long it takes to grow into a book tree, but as you can see, this is now a 24-year-old tree, or maybe 23 years.
Yeah.
And they're awesome.
And yeah, so I've always noticed that these are the perfect Christmas plant because they're this nice deep green, and then right around Christmas each year, this is filmed right at New Year's, they're this nice deep red berry. But what were you saying earlier about the flowers?
Well, they have come February, March, April, somewhere in there. The whole tree that has the right light, like whatever part of the tree has the right light to our climate or wherever it is, because we move them around the living room, they get these beautiful white flowers, and they smell just like a perfume. They're beautiful. You can smell them as you walk close to the trees, and I'm really impressed actually that they are that nice to smell. So the white flowers show up, and we don't have any insects or anything in the house. I don't know how they fertilize themselves, but somehow they do. And the next thing you know, you get these beans, and they start off as small and green, like these ones here. You can see they're green, and they obviously start smaller than that. And every one of these used to be a flower, and then they turn green like this, and then eventually they turn sort of a pinkish red, like this one here. You can see it's starting to turn a pinkish red, and eventually they turn bright red, and that's when they get harvested down there. Like they do a lot of, they hand harvest these things. Believe it or not, these bushes, this is how they grow in Guatemala. And they have a basket around their waist, and they go in amongst these bushes, and they hand harvest every bean depending on which ones are ripe. And they have to go through 2-3 times until they've harvested them all, because they ripen at other times.
So if I was to harvest this right now, I would pick a bean.
That's it.
I'm going to hand you that.
Yep.
And I'm going to pick myself a nice ripe one. And what is your description of the taste of this pulpy outside?
Well, what you do is as you can see, I squeezed it, and there's the pulp. It's sweet. It has sort of a plant taste, but it's a sweet taste. They don't use that. They just throw that away. And then you have these beans. And they take these beans, once they put them through a machine that squashes them, gets rid of the red, washes it, and they float in a bed of water. They drain them, and then they put them out on big concrete pads in the sun, and every day they turn them until they dry. And that's what gets shipped to North America for roasting. So it's the same as these. And I've taken these,
Yeah.
and I think you have too, and you've put them in the kitchen, and you've let them dry, and then you've roasted them in the frying pan. And they just sort of roast them until they think, that's about right. And then they put them through their coffee grinders and make coffee. It's a really simple process.
And is these the ones that have dried out a little bit, or like fresh, wet ones like this?
I wasn't really paying attention. I was working there as a volunteer, and I was doing this in Honduras several years on when I saw how they actually work the beans. And I'm sure they're dried beans by the time they roast them. It doesn't make sense any other way.
Yeah.
But yeah. And
cool.
The whole villages do this, and whole villages have plantations of these things, and they go in and hand harvest them one bean at a time, just like you did, and squash them, dry them, package them, and send them to you.
Cool. All right, well, I'm going to get harvesting.
All right, go for it.
So the harvest is pretty simple. It's just you find the nice red beans, you pick them, and then these are the ones I squished there earlier. And this pot over in the other end of the room, right here, there's a fresh coffee plant starting, and that was not planted. That was just one of the little beans like this that had dropped off of the tree and is now starting its own little thing. So you can just dig that out of there in a few months and put it in its own pot, and you get another coffee plant. And just the Christmas colors, like here's your Christmas tree here and the red berries, and here's the actual plant they came from. And what's kind of neat is up here in the shade, these actually grow quite well. Apparently they grow in the shade. And the nice deep dark happy leaves are right up there where they don't get any of that direct sunlight through these bay windows. And then down here it's a little scruffier where they actually get the sun shining on them all summer. So yeah, I'm just gonna pick a good handful of these and we'll turn them into coffee. I've shelled a little batch here, and these are the ones that aren't shelled, and really all I did was I just squished them down with my hand up against the table, and all of the beans kind of pop out. You can do it with your fingers like that, and they sort of go flying. And yeah, you just separate all the beans out. Of course, this is, artisan picked, hand separated coffee. And I don't think you have to, but I'm just going to take all of these and mix them in with some water here just to rinse the rest of the pulp off, and then I'm going to let them dry for a day or two. Gentle rinse, strain it out. So there you have it. I've just got them rinsed and sitting on a plate to dry for a couple days before we roast them up and make a cup of coffee. I'll let the beans dry out just with the hot air from one of the heat vents. And here we have Calgary grown versus one scoop done by the professionals. There's your unroasted, ready to go. These are just dry coffee beans with the husks removed. And that is a empty pan at about medium heat. I didn't do my research. I'm just taking my best guess here, and we're just gonna stir these around until they brown up. Well, we're starting to brown up here. Apparently I want to hit somewhere between about 200 and 230 degrees Celsius. I could probably just put these in the oven, but we're going to try this whole pan roast idea. Definitely starting to bring some color to the bean. So I just kind of stirred them around here, been about 15-20 minutes, and we have what looks to be a nice dark roast. That's the dried beans. This was from a local roaster, and this is the frying pan method. Not saying this is the best way to do it. I'm imagining an oven might be a better way to hit a consistent temperature, but there's your beans. So let's grind them up. That is what we're working with. And well, I'm going to grind these in a small batch, and we're going to do a little bit of a, I don't know what you call this, but it would be similar to a French press where they soak for about 5 minutes, and then I'll get all of the nice oils and flavors and see what this Calgary coffee is all about. I didn't think much of this in the pan, but now that it's all contained in this container, it actually smells really good, like rich, kind of fruity. Like, I don't know, I've never smelled coffee quite, but it smells like coffee should smell. Let's see what it's like once it's ground. Let's pour this out here. This is pre-warmed, so let's see if we can get the grounds in. now we wait. Certainly smells nice, like very fragrant. I'm definitely not a coffee aficionado. I'm the kind of person who would say if you normally like a light roast and you have a dark roast, you probably won't like it. But as far as the, intricacies of the flavors of the bean, I have no idea what I'm talking about. But it's actually pretty good. It's definitely very fragrant, nice and flavorful. It tastes like coffee. So it must be coffee, I guess. As far as being grown at about 4,000 feet here in Calgary, Alberta, 51 degrees latitude, apparently it works. I have no idea how I could have done that roast better or what exactly happened there, but this is, I'd say at the very least, being this fresh and just letting it soak there, like all the oils, kind of like a French press style. Like this is a really good cup of coffee. Although for my taste, just a little bit of maple syrup will really bring the flavor out on this. Just a touch of maple syrup, spoon that in nicely. Ooh. Well, it's definitely coffee. I don't mind it. It doesn't taste quite like anything I've had before. And I'll get back to you to let you know what the caffeine content is like. Does this have any kick to it? It's about 10 minutes later and it's caffeinated. I'm feeling very awake, so it works. But yeah, I don't really know how else to describe it, except I was kind of after the way it looked when I roasted it, I was expecting it to be a crappy cup of coffee, but it was a pretty good cup. Would recommend. And until next time, cheers and thank you for watching, everyone.